Welcome to the Dynamics of Everyday Life, where we demystify some tricky concepts and get to know ourselves a little bit better. Welcome back to the Dynamics of Everyday Life. Last year was not the easiest for me. I'm not going to go into the details. In the vein of James Bond, it's a need-to-know basis, and last year is staying truly in the past where it belongs. So, why am I telling you this? And there's a quick reference to last week's topic there. The key point is I started this year at a bit of a low ebb confidence-wise. I really wasn't on top form, and I was definitely not the best version of myself. Now, this is a bit of a tricky place to be when you're a coach and working with other people to get to that point. However, I'm really proud that none of my clients would have known, but I did, as did the people who are closest to me. My initial thoughts on structuring this episode were at this point I would say that after I had stopped feeling sorry for myself, I started to take action. But I'm actually going to practice what I preach. I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. If anything, I'd tried to get through the experience a lot quicker than was good for me. There was almost this kind of move along the bus please, there's nothing to see here attitude in my mind, and it really wasn't doing me any favours. So at Christmas, I had the chance to pause and realised that I really needed to take better care of myself. And that started with me acknowledging that my confidence had, understandably, taken a bit of a battering. And instead of me attempting to continue relentlessly filling my days with unnecessary stuff, I'm brilliant at that, let me tell you. I can distract myself with all kinds of things that I think are important, but they aren't really. And I thought it was time to take some positive action. Now, I quite fancy doing something out of my comfort zone, but also something fun. Fun is key, so much to my children's horror, I decided to have a go at pole dancing. I know, and this is a really sensible point, I know how important it is to build strength, and this seemed like an ideal way to do it. You can't be holding your entire body weight if you aren't strong enough to do this. And I always have my beloved friend Steve in my mind too, and I know that this is something he would have been incredibly proud of me for having a go at too. We'd have had a laugh at some of my less glamorous moments, but I can also hear him telling me to keep going. Long story short, I started going to classes and I found the one that works for me. So I go to beginners choreo with the wonderful Elle teaching it on a Monday evening. This is a fabulous group. It's so much fun, there's lots of learning, and I'm getting better. And the reason that I'm talking about this in one of my podcast episodes is the impact that it's had on me and how I feel about myself, and why we might sometimes self-sabotage to prevent ourselves from feeling like this. So, what's the key moment here? I'll set the scene. I started the group with no specialised kit. I was turning up in my tennis outfit. I had no proper shoes, I had no knee pads, and that was the first thing that I changed. But for a few weeks I was doing the class in my bare feet because I was a little bit anxious about putting the shoes on. So when we're talking about the shoes, we're talking about the ones with the huge great heels and the platforms. And it was fine, I could do it in my bare feet, but I couldn't get a lot of the drama in. Anyway, one lesson, Elle invites me to try on her spare boots. So we're the same size and the rest of the class look at me expectantly. So I decided to go with it. And the rest is history. I felt like a child in a sweet shop combined with Wonder Woman and She-Ra. I mean, that really is going to age you if you know what I'm talking about with She-Ra. And it was incredible how much better I felt doing the class in the boots. And more interestingly, this feeling lasted. It made me happy and I genuinely felt better about myself in the days that followed. My confidence had increased, I felt I could tackle more, and there was nothing else to link it to. It was definitely how the boots had made me feel. So obviously, I purchased a pair of boots for myself. These are beautiful purple ones with glitter. Love them. So I'm going all in now. The moment these boots arrived and I put them on my feet, I felt absolute joy. So happy with them on my feet. Am I going to be making a new career out of this hobby? I really think not. I'd like my children to still be speaking to me. But I am going to continue and keep having fun with it. It's made me think about how we build ourselves back up from adversity. and what we might be doing that's inadvertently holding us back. If I'd known that attending this class and wearing a pair of boots would make me feel as happy as it does, I'd like to think that I'd have done this months ago. But in all honesty, I wonder if I had to get to the point that I was at to take drastic action. What's going on for us psychodynamically in these moments? There are a few things that could be swirling around the mix here. It'd be no surprise to learn that these are in the guise of our defence mechanisms. So what have we got today? In my situation, I think there was definitely some repression going on. I really didn't want to think about how badly the previous few months had impacted me, so I squished my feelings away. Now, whilst it possibly did some good in squishing away all the difficult feelings I was trying not to think about, because I could have been overwhelmed by them, it was also keeping me from thinking about all the good that had happened and what I had actually achieved during that time. And without having that in mind, I lost a lot of my confidence. It also explains the over-busyness, because if I was extra busy doing a lot of really important things, then I didn't have to think about where I was or what was happening. I was also incredibly worried about what other people were thinking about me and would think about me. And in this way, I rationalised why I wasn't taking any action. Now, this is a fine balance. You do have to recover, and I do think that I needed to fight my way back to feeling like myself again. But I know that alongside this, I was keeping myself safe to avoid feeling that bad again. Even when I started my classes, I was always at the back with no shoes and not getting fully involved. I was rationalising this. Well, do I know if I can walk in the shoes? Spoiler alert, yes. It's actually easier in the shoes. I mean, who knew? But it really is easier in the shoes. I've got plenty of sportswear. I don't need the outfits. True, but this was also keeping me outside of everyone else. When I did become more invested in the class, I felt the stories dropping away, or at least becoming quieter in my mind. And last but not least, I was also denying a few fairly uncomfortable truths to myself, which were probably blindingly obvious to other people. And one of those truths was, I wasn't feeling great. I wasn't Superwoman, and I couldn't sail through this as if nothing had happened. I had to take my time, fix myself, and work out who I wanted to be from this point onwards. One of the hardest parts about denial is that even when the people closest to you highlight that this is happening, it's hard to recognise in yourself, because you don't want to. My invitation to you this week is for you to consider where in your life you've been holding yourself back from doing something or trying something that you want to. Where might your defence mechanisms be coming out to play? What stories are you telling yourself that are getting in your way or are keeping you right where you are? And what can you do to find your own fabulous boots that make you feel powerful and that you can take on the world? And, as always, give yourself some grace. It can be a bit of a shock to realise that our plan to protect ourselves also brings an element of self-sabotage too. Looking at ourselves at this level can be challenging and unnerving as we develop our awareness, so I'd always encourage that you do this at your own speed. If you feel you need some extra help around this, then I've put together a PDF resource sheet and you can find the link for this in the show notes. If you'd like to have a chat with me about psychodynamics or whether I'm the right coach, supervisor or mentor for you, then click on the link that's also in the show notes. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dynamics of Everyday Life. Please hit the follow button for future episodes and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Instagram at The Dynamics of Everyday Life or find me on LinkedIn at Julia Rogers. I'd love to hear from you and hear your thoughts on dynamics. The Dynamics of Everyday Life is brought to you by Coaching 42 and the fabulous team at the Podcast Boutique.